It's the early 14th century.
You are listening to And If Love Remains, a unique show spotlighting people, ideas, science, culture, and art. Your host, Mike Lovett.
The House of Habsburg are emperors of the Austrian Empire, and they're looking to dominate an area called Uri. And so they sent governors to the area to do their will, and a particular governor by the name, we'll call him Albrecht Gessler. Albert Gessler was sent to be the governor of the area. And, as tyrants do, they overtaxed the population. They stole. He forced people into prisons. He made them build castles. He sent them to war. Basically, he does what every government agent does. And in that area, there was a group of men. They were the mountain men of the area, so they lived off. They didn't live in town. And there was one particular man. His name is Wilhelm, and Wilhelm would spend his summers up in the mountains making cheese and taking care of his goats. And he was known as a great hunter. He was excellent with a crossbow. In fact, some say that he would spend his time practicing shooting grasshoppers with his crossbow. So he spent his summers up there, and when it was time to come back, he came back to a loving wife and a son named Walter, and they loved, and he was a man who loved his family, who loved his liberty, and loved his God. So back to our Albert Gessler, the man in charge of Uri. He was getting so upset with the townspeople because he had completely wiped them out. He had completely stolen everything he could from them, and they were basically he was doing what tyrants do, and didn't feel like he was getting the respect he deserves. And so he decided to humiliate the people even more. He would place a pole at the entrance of town and put his hat on the pole, where it was expected for everybody to bow to the hat as if it were him, as if he's above anybody. And unfortunately, most people did. I guess that's Stockholm syndrome. Is that what it's called? Anyway, so Wilhelm, who's just returned from the mountain to his family, came into town to sell his cheese and do business with the townspeople there. He didn't realize that this was all going on, and he entered the town and of course did not pay any kind of tribute to a person, let alone a hat. And he was stopped by the guard, and the guard said, "You need to bow to the hat." To which Wilhelm, now known as William Tell, refused to bow to the hat. So Gessler, I keep calling him Gressler, but Gessler came to him and said, "You need to bow to the hat and show respect for my authority." And Tell turned to him, made the sign of the cross, and said, "I bow only to God." Well, no tyrant likes to hear that. Oh, yeah. Nothing like a little religious intolerance among the authority figures. It's insane. Anyway, so Gessler gets upset, as you know, because that's what he does, and he tells the guards he's gonna to place him and his son Walter, because of course Walter is also punished for his father's sin of not bowing, because again that's what tyrants do. So Walter is placed under arrest, and Gessler, you know, gives the uh, says that he has committed the crime of treason, high treason. Oh yeah, because every crime becomes high treason in a clown world. So, but he gives as a cruelty, because there's nothing like cruelty in government. He has a cruelty. He says, however, if you can shoot an arrow with your crossbow and hit an apple off the head of your son, I will let you go. So, death or shooting an apple off his son's head. Again, William was quite a good shot and had complete confidence in the shot, I'm sure. He had to do it from 100 paces, by the way. And, but I mean, clearly there is going to be, as a father, some anger involved and some trepidation. And I just imagine, I don't know if this is what happened, but I imagine the son looking up at his father and saying, I believe in you. You can do this. Something to that effect. Who knows? But he decided to take the shot. I guess they were going to die either way, so might as well. So from 100 paces, he pulls out 2 arrows, places one, bolts, I think they're called with crossbows, bolts. Place one of the bolts in the crossbow bow. Steps 100 paces away, takes aim, and fires. And the apple is split in 2. As he turns, Gessler, always always looking for a loophole, asks him, what was that other arrow for? And being an honest man, Wilhelm turned to him, looked him directly in the eye, and said, if that first arrow hit my son, this second arrow was for you. Once again, Gessler, as is typical with anybody with false authority, said, oh, in that case, you've committed high treason again. I will back out on my word, and I will send you to my castle where we will torture you, and we will kill you and your son. So the guards seized him, put him on a boat, and they were traveling to his castle when a storm came across the lake, and it was a terrible storm. And Wilhelm, knowing the area, talked the guards into releasing him to allow him to steer the boat into safety. As he did steer it into safety, he also steered it into some rocks and jumped out of the boat in time and ran away. Gessler, being furious, chased him. And at a place called Holgas, which is a stretch of road cut through the rock, Gessler met his end at the end of another bolt shot by Wilhelm Tell. The day that Tell was forced to shoot an apple off his son's head was November 18th, 1307. Today is November 18th. I propose we call this William Tell Day, Wilhelm Tell Day, and each of us carry 2 bolts, 2 arrows, 2 bullets to remember William Tell. As a post note, it doesn't seem to be that Wilhelm was part of any kind of real movement against the state. He was just he was one man who stood up for his rights, one man who stood up against tyranny, one man. We need to remember this man. We need to emulate this man. Because what happened after that is a group of towns that surrounded this lake got together, kicked out the governor, refused any other governorship from Austria, said, we will only work directly with you, with the emperor. And eventually they completely broke away and became Switzerland.
You are listening to And If Love Remains.
The first of 23 installments requested by Dr. Levitt. We're trying to be in compliance here because we're taking him and that whole organization